Hi everyone and welcome back to another Monday guide. After my last naval guide where I tested the starting fleets of the UK, US and Japan against each other, there were a lot of requests in the comment field to also test the Italian fleet. So I decided to do another round of tests, and this time included the two remaining naval powers, which is then of course the Italians, but also the French, which everyone seems to forget all the time. And just to kind of cover my OCD, I also wanted to include the UK, just to make sure that we have all the great naval powers in Europe attending the fight. So I hope you guys will enjoy it. Alright, so how will I run this test? Like my last guide, when I did the testing, I will do the same thing. I will take the starting navies of the three countries, UK, France and Italy, and fight them out against each other in some different scenarios where you add doctrines, admirals, spirits and so on to make it more interesting to tilt the results one way or another. I will have all the fights in an ocean tile, which is then the Tyrrhenian Sea that we see here. So it's neutral navy zone, if you will, where there are no particular buffs or debuffs for certain types of fleets. So this is where I will have all the fights. I won't have any air or anything else to disrupt the fight. So just a pure fight of the fleets. I also decided to remove all the submarines and also the production queues, which is for the not a favor for the Italians, because Italians, as you know, they start with some heavy ships that are almost done, but then they won't be included in the fight. So let's have a quick look at the fleets. So as you can see here on the screen, we have the French Navy on 72 ships, the Italian on 103 ships, and then the UK Navy on 195 ships. So based on this, it should be a walkover victory for the UK, which, spoiler alert, it probably will be. But the French and the Italian ones are very, very interesting, because the Italians lack some heavy guns with only 2 battleships, while the French have more power in the back line, but much less destroyers in the front line. So very interesting to see how that plays out. And also, just so you know, I will run just one fight of each type now. But to confirm the results, I run the fight several times in the background without recording it, just so you know that I also have validated the data somewhat. Yeah, let's start with the fights. Before moving on to the next one, I just want to take a short moment of your time and say that most of you watching this are yet not subscribers to the channel, so if you hit that subscribe button here somewhere, you will receive a new guide from me and Boppus every Monday. If you want more guides, you can become a patron, and then you will not only get our love, but you will also get our full archive of Patreon exclusive guides. I think it's 34 or 35 we have in the archive right now, and then we will make another one every second week for you guys as well, on top of Discord and some other stuff. So check it out, it's in the description somewhere here around. Alright, so let's start with the fight everyone is here to watch, or at least I am, because it's the interesting one, and that is the Italians versus the French. And like I said before, the French have more heavy power or heavy attack, while the Italians have more screens. So it's going to be a very interesting fight. And I've ran this fight several times a couple of days ago. And yeah, I won't give any spoilers now, but let me tell you, it was very exciting each time. So let's see what happens. So, here we go. And the fight is starting now. So as you can see from the offset, very, very even. As you can see up here as well, there's a storm happening right now, which is unlucky for the French because they have a carrier. Apart from that, it looks like a slight favor to the French side. But like we said, both sides have full screening efficiency from the start, but there are a lot of more destroyers on the Italian side. So even though the backline is much weaker than the French side, it might be a problem for the French once the fight starts. But let's see what happens. this time. So I'm gonna unpause. And then just before the fight is over, I'm gonna have a look at the damage outputs as well. So trading quite evenly. The Italians are taking more losses than the French. It looks like it's still favoring the French quite a bit. Now it's flipping around, so the Italians are taking, or the French are taking some hits. Yeah, trading very evenly, but still favoring the French as a winner. The back line is getting hammered on the Italian side, which is quite logical, but the screens are almost out of the French, and that will give the Italians a comeback possibility. So let's see. Yeah, now you see it up here. This is very interesting. So the back line is still alive, but almost buried alive, or a few ships on the Italian side. Only the back line on the French left, and now it's favoring the Italians. But let's see what happens. Can they soak all the torpedoes? Can they shoot them down? Yeah, it flipped around. I think the French will take this time as well. Spoiler. Yeah, let's fast forward it a little bit. Out saving. Yeah, and here we go. So, it's the battleships. They are still in the fight, or the battlecruisers. They are winning this on the French side. Let's have a look at the damage output from the French. We can see total damage comes from 55% heavy guns, and then we have 31% light guns, almost nothing on the torpedoes, 11%. On the Italian side, we have 53% light guns, which is probably all the screens, putting out that damage. And then quite evenly from heavy guns and torpedoes, 24%. So that's the torpedoes from the destroyers that they've been torpedoing all day long when all the screening efficiency were gone on the French side. And now if we run this to the very end, these last screens, they are gone and dead. And we have a French victory. And like I said, I've run this test many times, and it's every time it's super even. And even though it looks like the Italians are winning, the back line of the French battleships, they are taking it home. And because they are not strong enough, the destroyers, on the torpedo damage. So that's what's happening. But super interesting fight. All right, so let's move on to fight number 2, which is the Italians versus the UK. And like I said in the intro, this is more for my OCD than anything else. But yeah, let's run those two fights down. UK versus Italy and UK versus France rather quick. But let's start with the first one, because this is gonna be a stomp unless I'm surprised. And to be honest, I haven't even done this test before, as I just assume it's gonna be a stomp. But let's do it. So here we go. Yeah, you can see by the indication that this is gonna be a run over or sail over, maybe you'll say. But yeah, let's unpause and see what happens. I think it's gonna be one of the most one-sided fights you'll ever see. The sheer firepower difference is just crazy. So the screens are just burning down on the Italian side. 3 lost destroyers on the UK side so far. Yeah, okay. They lost 7 naval bombers and 3 destroyers, and almost the entire Italian fleet is gone. So very one-sided. Alright, so let's move on to fight number 3. Can the French put up a better fight than the lousy Italians? Sorry for that. It's just a much better fleet. So let's send out the UK, and then let's take the French, send them to the Tyrrhenian Sea as well, and see what happens. There we go. Yeah, looks very similar to the last fight. Remember, the Italians, they sunk 3 destroyers and 7 naval bombers. Let's see if the French can put up a better fight. 1 destroyer, 3 destroyers, 4. Yeah, already. Okay, maybe I was too quick on that. Yeah. No, they got 4 destroyers and now they're just getting, yeah, crushed. Just like the Italians. So, it looked better in the start though for the French, but they got 1 destroyer more and then they got, yeah, a few more planes. But very, very one-sided once again. So Britannia ruled the waves. Alright, so that was the first round of fights on these 3 navies. And the result was very decisive between the UK and the other 2. The UK is by far the best fleet, and it kind of snowballs when you have that advantage because they start to focus firing the damaged ships, and the UK will just crush the other fleets because they are so superior in firepower and number of ships. But between the Italians and the French, that was super interesting. I ran this fight, I don't know how many times, and the French won every time, but it looked like the Italians could have won many times, but then the back line of the battleships and the carrier of the French, they are just soaking all damage and slowly putting all the frontliners to sleep. So very interesting. What I will do now is that I will focus on the Italians versus the French and see if we can throw that results around a little bit with some different decisions. And then I will also make some crazy tilted things to see if either of these fleets can defeat the UK if all the stars align and you're kind of lucky and have a downhill and everything. So let's run some tests. Alright, so for fight number 4 I'm gonna do the Italians against the I was gonna say Japanese, but the French again. And now I'm gonna add the best admirals on both sides, I think, for their fleets to see what happens. Because I think I have an idea that this might give an advantage to the Italians. So, on the Italian side, I'm not going to take the top row one. I'm going to actually go down to this guy, level 2. Because he has bold, and he has positioning, spotting speed I don't really care about. But career officer is nice to level up during the fight. And then I'm going to do like this and take destroyer leader. Because he has a lot of destroyers, as you know. And let's see if we can, we can have one more. So maybe, yeah, torpedo screen penetration. That might play in our, yeah, let's take that. I think that plays in our advantage. And then over to the French side, the glorious French. They're gonna take, yeah, I think we're gonna go for the top guy. Bold is always good, positioning is always good, even though it's not as important for the French. We have quite a lot of good cruisers. So let's take that one. And let's take that one instead. And now, let's see what happens. My hypothesis, which I'm very eager to see, I haven't run this test before, this one. So this is the first time I do this, is that the Italians will favor more from the positioning because they are more ships, or have more ships basically. So, let's see if we can get a fight going. And let's see who is on the upper side. French still very much in favor. Yeah, let's see what happens. French is losing destroyers quicker, but remember that naughty backline of the French fleet, that was an issue last time around. But looks like the AI thinks that French are crushing it. I'm not sure I agree though, because there are a lot of destroyers left. And the screening is completely gone almost now. Yeah, let's see. I'm sure they can't survive this. This time around, they must pick them off. Yeah. Come on, can't anyone hit anything? Yeah, okay. So now they are fleeing one after another. And yeah, I'm pausing because it's over. The Italians have won. And let's see what the damage comes from. Yeah, torpedoes 38%. And then light guns. And you see at the very bottom, the destroyers have done 49% of the job. On the Italian side, quite surprised that those two battleships have done 12%. On the French side, we have battleships done 49% of the job, so a complete opposite kind of stat. And light guns and heavy guns done most of the work. Torpedoes 12. But also the naval bombers only done 2%, which is not very impressive. So an Italian victory, which I think is very, very interesting. Alright, so let's move on to fight number 5, and that is Italy against France one more time. This time I will still take the same admirals like last time, the very good ones, and I will also add the same traits like I did last time, so I will have the cruiser captain and destroyer leader on France. But I have now on both sides also taken full fleet in being doctrine on both sides, so they will still both have the same. What I have done though is that I've given decisive battle for the French to kind of boost their backline of battleships, and then on the Italian side I decided to give them something that favors them, which is efficient communications positioning. So boost their, like, since they have more ships, I'm gonna boost their strength of having more ships all the way through. So that is the idea behind it. And I'm still gonna take the same admiral like last time, and I'm gonna give him destroyer leader, and I'm gonna give him lancer as well, like I had last time. So let's run this fight and see what happens. Yeah, I have to stay in harbor a little bit to get the doctrines, yes, up to 100% on both sides. And there we go. Just making sure that the Italians still have fuel. Yeah, they have fuel. So it looks like slight French advantage this time around, but let's see, the Italians won last time, kind of this lineup, so let's see what happens now with just doctrines on both sides and different spirits, which is the new thing here. So let's unpause. Oh. So the French are taking the lead this time around, eating through the front line. Now they're trading. Yeah, this time it looks more like we're back on some kind of French favor. No, maybe not. Very, very even. But I think this goes in French favor, actually, that they're trading like this. Yeah. The Italians are now, they have eaten through the whole front line. No, the Italians are winning this. I'm pretty sure. The French would have needed to burn through that front line quicker. More even this time around, but still an Italian victory. The carrier won't be able to do anything. No, there we go. So Italy won this time around also with the positioning buff and both full doctrines. Alright, so let's go with fight number 6. So this time it will be exactly like fight number 5 on the French side, but on the Italian side I will instead just take this admiral and some different traits. So we still have the positioning and we still have full doctrines. On the French side we have a decisive battle instead of efficient communications. But for the Italian admiral, we have battleship adherent instead of what is it called? Instead of this one, bold, basically. But it's a higher level, this guy instead. And let's take cruiser captain this time, and let's take a lancer. So some different traits. on the Italians. Let's fast forward to see we got some organization. So might look like small changes, but let's see if they make some. Oh, if they have some big game impact. There we go. Tag France. Let's go. Two. Destroyers got sunk right away. Let's see. Yeah, more even this time around. It looks like the French are getting the upper hand. Yeah, hitting those frontline destroyers quite dramatically on the Italian side. Yeah, this is going to be a crush victory for France once again. Yeah, French victory quite dramatically. And this is kind of the very interesting part of this, which I really enjoy with the naval game. To kind of take some kind of conclusion, what really happened was that if we look at the Italian side this time around, is that we didn't have an admiral that was worse in any way. It was just that we couldn't really play on the strengths that we had, because the Italian fleet consisted of 82, I think it was, destroyers, and since we didn't have the destroyer leader one, we didn't get that very critical one in the beginning, in the middle, visibility minus 10% on the destroyers, which making them very difficult to hit for the French. And we also didn't have the bold trait on the other admiral, which is naval speed, which also makes them more difficult to hit. So that is kind of my analysis of what went down, because damage output wise, this admiral would still have given the Italians very good damage output, because they have a lot of cruisers and they also still had good penetration chance with the torpedoes. So they should have been able to put up a good fight, and they still had a good positioning all the way through, because everything else was similar with superior tactician and good positioning. So just by changing those small traits out to something else really made all the difference to make the French guys back on top, and quite dramatically so, again. All right, so fight number 7. Now I will try to kind of recreate the best of the best from both sides of Italy and France. So we're back to the setup of the Italians, where we have the admiral we really did like. I'm back on taking the traits that we won with as Italy. What I will now do is kind of making this one tad more realistic in terms of if you would fight out and with both sides doing the best they can to win right off the outset of the game, and take whatever advisors they have available for them as well. So on the Italian side, we will then of course take, let's see here. Yeah, so we take this guy, Decisive Battle. He's the best one to help us out in a naval fight. And then we have capital ship experts. 10% on capital ship attack and armor. And then I don't think we have anything else that will help us in a naval fight. Naval air defense. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Nothing up here, no. So, and then on the French side, and this is where I think the French... Because remember, everything else is like fight number 5, where the Italians won quite dramatically, because the Italians have the best admiral back in play now. But the French, I think they have better advisors. So they have Decisive Battle Expert, better for the French. We have Screens Expert, much better for the French. Then we have the capital ships specialist, which is also good. And let's see, do we have anything else? Fleet logistics, no, won't really help us. No. Yeah, no, I'm gonna take it just for the fun of it. All right, so this is then the last fight between those two nations, and then I think we're done with France and Italy for a while. But yeah, let's see what happens now. I haven't run this test before, so this is going to be very interesting. I still think Italy's going to win this, to be honest. But there's a lot of... No, maybe not actually, because the screen advisor for the French is very strong. So, I mean, let's see. Here we go. Looks like right at the start that the French have an upper hand. But we've seen this before, right? So, yeah, let's see what happens. Okay. The French starts very good. They just... Yeah, it evens out. Because if the French lose the front line, this can be trouble for the French. But... Are they... Oh, it's super even. Almost all screens are gone for French. But the back line is still there. So it's going to be... Yeah, I think the French will win this one. Yeah. Almost back to the very start of this testing. But yeah, the French won this one. Let's see what happens to the Italians. The destroyers did 42% of the damage. Torpedoes 26%. The French... Yeah, the battleships are up to 45% of the damage. Light guns 37%. Heavy guns 47%. Yeah. Not really torpedoes doing any of the job. So... conclusion is then, I would assume, unless there's some other optimal settings, but based on my testing, I think this would be kind of like the best setup that Italy could start with, and the best setup that the French could start with, and then with all the advisors and everything in a fight, and it looks like the French would be on the upper side of things. I would assume this fight to go in a similar direction each time, or similar, but maybe the Italians would win like 1 out of 5 or something. We haven't done any technologies, but then if we do the same on both sides, I wouldn't expect much of a difference, to be honest. Yeah, and both sides would want to have the fleet in being doctrine, because they have a lot of like regular like destroyers, and yeah, no one is going for a raiding build or carrier build, to be honest. So yeah, interesting stuff. Alright, to our last fight, fight number 8. This will be, and I haven't forgot them, it will be the UK against France. But I've done a lot of testing with the UK, and they are so much more strong than all other fleets, or compared to the Italian and French one. So it's not really fun doing anything with them. But what I will do with this one is that I will take the UK fleet as it is. So very... yeah, I've done nothing with it basically. So no doctrines, no admirals, no nothing, just raw in its raw shape. I will send it out to the Tyrrhenian Sea. No doctrines, no nothing. And then on the French side, we have stacked everything we can stack. I have taken decisive battle, full doctrine. I have taken the advisors here down here, like I did in the last fight. I have even taken, to represent that we're like in mid 36, 1 row of techs everywhere as well, to get a little boost from that. And lastly, I have also exercised the fleet up to regular, and even exercised some of the planes. So let's do this and see if this can give the French some chance. And just to give you like a quick reminder of the comparison, the UK Navy is 195 ships, as you see here, and the French is 72. See if this makes any difference whatsoever, because when I did some other testings, the UK just ran over them no matter what happened. But now maybe we have a chance. And I still have the Admiral with the traits as well, and no Admiral on the UK side. Let's see what happens. Here we go. So still looks like the UK will crush us. Let's look at the damage output. They have quite a lot more, but it's actually not that big of a difference now. But yeah, let's see what happens. Usually it's like snowballs or like snowballs quite quick. Okay, good start from the French. They're actually burning through some of the screens on the UK side. But let's see. The French, they don't have much spares. Once they start losing screens, it's going to go downhill real quick. Yeah, and here we go. The UK are hitting them quite hard. I don't think the French can have a chance. Can they? The back line is getting hammered on the UK side. Yeah, the Admiral is leveling up on the French side. But let's take a pause and see what happened. So right now, they still have most of the ships, like 54 destroyers still on the UK side. The back line is getting beaten quite badly, though. They lost 2 capitals. Yeah, I mean, UK should still win this, to be honest. But the French, they are putting up a good fight. Like, the battleships are really hitting it hard. Huh. Maybe? Yeah, it's happening. Okay. I okay. I really didn't expect this to happen. I really didn't expect the French to win this. And they are winning it. The last of the UK ships, they are scrambling to run away. The French will have won this. Damage output. Let's see what it comes from. Battleships 48%. Light guns, heavy guns, yeah, it's quite evenly distributed. The naval bombers did nothing because they got intercepted most likely. Oh, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if there's any kind of conclusion to this fight more than, if you stack a small fleet like the French fleet compared to the UK fleet with everything, you just barely have the possibility to win because they still lost pretty much of all their screens, and I mean, everything is like really hammered, so this was a super close call. And yeah, there they go. The French managed to win over the UK with their starting fleet if they stacked everything, but in a realistic way. So a UK player stacking everything together and just ignoring it would have lost. I would bet, though, if they would have just an Admiral, the UK side, that leveled up, they would have won this quite easily. Or they will have won this if they had an Admiral. But yeah, interesting to watch. So, conclusion. And this, I'm going to put this up on the screen. Yeah, so basically the UK fleet is way too superior to these other 2 fleets. And I mean, a disclaimer is, of course, that the Italians would probably not just attack the UK fleet with their starting fleet because it's so inferior. The Italians have quite a lot of good stuff in their queue for more battleships, if I remember correctly. So they usually have a bit more when they engage into a fight. But then again, the UK and the French could do the same if they would want to and just queue up some other things and wait a little bit more. But the conclusion I'd say is then, like, you have to play on your strengths depending on what kind of fleet you have. In this test today, I didn't change any doctrines. I had the same doctrines. I was basically just playing with the admirals and the spirits and tried to use that in my favor. So the Italian fleet was much more screen oriented, while the French Navy a little bit more backline oriented. So I tried to play on both sides' strengths. But when I did that, the Italians would win if they had the right admiral with the right traits. But in the raw shape, the French Navy would win, actually, because the Italians would get so penalized for the positioning because they had more ships. Because one destroyer weights the same as a backline capital ship in terms of positioning. So in the raw shape, the French Navy was stronger than the Italian, but with the right admirals, the Italian Navy would be the better Navy. But then again, if we would go back to like more realistic scenario where both could take all their advisors and everything, the French side would win once again. So it's kind of, if both sides would know exactly what they're doing, they would attack it as soon as they could in the game, and like half a year in and take all of the advisors, the French would win this. But then just one slight mistake on either side, taking one trait wrong, and the other side would win. It's really up to the margins on this one. So I think that's very, very, very interesting to consider when you play like a bigger game, a multiplayer game or a single player game, and you have a fleet that you build over a longer period of time. You start refitting everything, and you kind of like specialize your navy. You might even grind an admiral up from level 1 up to level something very high and pick all the traits you want. Yes, with all those traits and all those variables, I mean, that makes all the difference at the end of the day to make that, get that synergy on your ships and what you want to achieve with them. So, yeah, but just on this pure test, French Navy, UK Navy, of course, strongest, then the French, and then the Italian one. And then with some adjusters, Italian back ahead of the French, and then the French ahead of the Italians again. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and see you next time.